viruses. You've probably all been infected with a virus this year, like the cold virus. Maybe some of you had the flu, or a whole bunch of viruses. We're going to focus on kind of the question, are viruses alive? Yes or no, and why or why not? So we need to start by talking about the structure of viruses. So right here we have a whole bunch of different viruses. Some of them you've heard of before, like influenza causes the flu, HIV, which causes AIDS, rabies, of course, might infect a rabid raccoon or something. If you have a dog at home, your dog has to have a rabies vaccine. The bacteriophage right here infects bacteria. But what I want to focus on is what all of these viruses have in common. And one thing that all viruses have, basic structure, is on the outside is some sort of protein coat. And viruses tend to have a very geometric kind of configuration. They might kind of sphere-shaped or polygon-shaped. And then inside this protein coat, there's some sort of genetic material. Okay. And when we say genetic material, what we're talking about is either DNA or RNA. And if a virus has RNA, it's considered a retrovirus. And retro means backwards, because they kind of have to take the RNA to make a DNA to make the proteins. But we'll get to that in a moment. And then some viruses also might even have kind of a lipid envelope around them. They don't all, but some do, and that just helps them to get into host cells. So let's talk about what viruses do and how they actually use a host cell to reproduce. All right, so what we have here is a host cell, such as one of your own. And let's say you get a cold virus that comes into your body and it gets into one of the cells in your, maybe in your lungs or in your throat. And we'll draw in here. Of course, your cells are eukaryotic, so you have a nucleus. And it's going to be very simple. Okay. So here's our little cold virus with its DNA. And it comes along, travels, and it gets here. And it's going to actually get into your cell. And then what it's going to do is it's going to inject the DNA from that virus, gets into your cell, and that DNA travels into the nucleus of your cell. And there, the DNA is going to use your cell's enzymes to make more copies of the DNA. Then, keeps using all of your different cell parts, because you also have, remember, lots of those tiny, tiny little ribosomes, those little protein factories in the cytoplasm of your cells. So the DNA that was just made, so the viral DNA made by your own cell, then travels out here. It goes to the ribosomes, and then the DNA is going to direct the synthesis of lots of protein capsids, okay, that outside part of the virus. And this goes on and on and on and on. So you get lots of, and then it kind of all assembles together. So the DNA goes into those viruses, and then what happens is a cell bursts open, and then all of those little viruses that were just made in your cell, okay, but we're talking about like times maybe 1 million, okay, are now released and will go and infect another cell. And that's how viruses use a host cell to reproduce, okay, a very simple way, but they're using a host cell's machinery to reproduce. So the question